Ladies and gentlemen, may we have your attention please? T20 TF2 side event will commence shortly. The honorable guest, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to T20 TF2 side event improving the mechanism of public-private partnership for smart city development. Ladies and gentlemen, T20 TF2 side event improving the mechanism of public-private partnership for smart city development is a side event for T20 that carries out discussions on how the mechanism of public-private partnership works and its implementation for smart city development. We proudly announce that this event is sponsored by Bakti Kominfo and organized by Smart City and Community Innovation Center of Institut Teknologi Bandung in collaboration with T20 Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, may we have your attention please? In a moment, we are going to sing our national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Therefore, we kindly request for on-site participants to stand up. Thank you.
Indonesia tanah airku, tanah tumpah darahku. Di sanalah aku berdiri, cari pandu ibuku. Indonesia kebangsaanku, bangsa dan tanah airku. Marilah kita bersatu, Indonesia bersatu. Hiduplah tanahku, hiduplah negeriku, bangsaku, rakyatku semuanya. Bangunlah jiwanya, bangunlah badannya untuk Indonesia Raya. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, tanahku, negeriku yang kucinta. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, hiduplah Indonesia Raya. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, tanahku, negeriku yang kucinta. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, hiduplah Indonesia Raya.
For all participants, please be seated. Of public-private partnership for smart city development. Let's listen to the opening speech from the head of Smart City and Community Innovation Center of Institut Teknologi Bandung. Please welcome Mr. Professor Suhono Harso Supangkat. For Mr. Suhono, the stage is yours.
Recording in progress.
Masuk ya. Ya. Excellency Minister of National Development Planning is represented by Deputy for Regional Development, Dr. Insinyur Himawan Haryoka Jayakusumo, His Excellency, Lead Co-Chair T20 Indonesia, Profesor Bambang Permati Sumantri Brojonegoro, distinguished Ms. Cleo Kawasaki, Head of ADB Office of Public-Private Partnership, Professor Dr. Insinyur Danang Parikesit, Lead Co-Chair Task Force A320 Indonesia, Mr. Muhammad Wahid Sutopo, Presiden Direktur PT Penjamin and Infrastructure, and also my best friend, Dr. Insinyur Binsar Parasian Nai Pospos, Senior Lecturer at SAPPK Institute Teknologi Bandung, and all of participants in this hybrid seminar regarding Task Force 2 T20. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, maybe good afternoon in another regional in the world. And welcome to this event. This event is in conjunction Go Smart, Go to Smart or Smartization in the world. Previously is an Indonesian going to Smart Nation, but this year Smart City and Community Innovation Center as a host for the T20 G20 presidency activities, and the SCGIC responsible for the digitalization in G20 agenda in all sectors. GoSmart is annual meeting, and this year we start with also talking about how to make better quality of life in the world, becoming GoSmarter the world. And in a task force 2, there are 9 policy areas considered, start from the infrastructure development, like the digital divide, and then also digitalization and smartization, also AI and ethics, also digital, also cybersecurity, and international collaboration, how to make the world smarter, improve the quality of life. One aspect in a development smarter is financial, and then how the private sector contribute in the development of the smarter quality of life. So this webinar is regarding how to improving the mechanism of the smart city development. There are some issues that we consider. Infrastructure is an important facility or infrastructure that plays an important role in economic growth and to implement and realize optimal development. In general, in many countries, infrastructure development activities are carried out and financed by government. However, in the development, not all countries have sufficient capacity in providing infrastructure, especially in the financing aspect. Rapid urbanization leads to a wide range of problems, such as environment pollution, resource depletion, uneven spatial development, and traffic congestion. Developing a smart city has been promoted by various governments as an effective approach to improving urban management and development. Most studies recognize that smart city initiative involve the implication of cutting-edge technology to achieve higher efficiency in urban systems. There are a variety of challenges associated with the development of smart city. It is undeniable that governments around the world face budget constraints in the development of infrastructure as infrastructure continues to age. This resulted in the emergence of constraints on public finance so that the development of smart city projects. In addition, smart city development need to involve multiple stakeholders, including city authorities and citizens and private and non-profit organizations with diverse interests and requirements. To overcome the problem related to financing, the government then began to involve the private sector in the development and provision of infrastructure known as the public-private partnership. But smart city is not only infrastructure, but also services and another data management, digital management, etc., etc. Public-private partnership is a form of agreement or agreement that occurs between the public sector and the private sector to achieve mutually agreed goal, with the application, provision, and its party having their respective role and responsibility. So, this hybrid webinar aims to discuss how the development of smart city in improving the quality of life need to involve many parties. With this discussion, it is hoped that parties can participate in advancing and improvement, especially in area they can improve the quality of life community. Objective of this webinar is introduce the public partnership in smart city development, shows the condition of public-private partnership in and for development in, of course, Indonesia and G20 countries. Discuss the challenge and impact of public-private partnership. And then I would like to thank to all the contributors, Bakti Indonesia and Penjamin Infrastructure Indonesia, and all of the parties that support this webinar. So, hope this webinar and hybrid seminar could give contribution for the G20 activities and especially G20 recommendation for our future of life, improve the quality of life. Thank you very much.
Mr. Suhono for the great speech to us. Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue with our first opening remarks from the Minister of National Development Planning or Head of Bappenas Indonesia. In this occasion is represented by the Director of Regional Development. Please welcome Mrs. Mia Amalia, STMSE PhD. For Mrs. Mia Amalia, the time is yours.
Thank you. On this occasion, please allow me to convey prepared remark for the Minister of National Development Planning, Head of National Development Planning Agency, who unfortunately is not able to join us today. Professor Suhono Supangkat, Professor Bambang Brojonegoro, Mr. Jeff Merritt, Ms. Cleo Kawawaki, Professor Dr. Danang Parikesit, Dr. Arya Sugiharto, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning and greetings to us all. First of all, on behalf of the Minister of National Development Planning, Head of National Development Planning Agency, I would like to extend our gratitude to Professor Suhono for the invitation as a keynote speaker for webinar Task Force 2, GeoSmart 2022, improving the mechanism of public-private partnership for smart city development. The theme of this event is highly relevant to our work in Bappenas, as well as challenges we are facing in the present and near future as we are living in the digitalization era. Therefore, I would like to take this opportunity to communicate challenges and plans related to the theme. Ladies and gentlemen, rapid urbanization is expected to continuously happen, including Indonesia. However, at the moment, we have not yet achieved optimum benefit of the urbanization compared to our neighboring countries. How could we get more benefit from urbanization? The answer is to elevate our urban management to be more efficient and smarter. Smarter approach includes integration of information resources, such as big data in planning of basic services for communities and to foresee the future urban needs. This approach also helps government to tackle emerging problems in urbanization, from congestion, low air quality, low provision of water and sanitation, to affordable housing. However, it is fundamental for us to underline that we should not make digital transformation or smart city as a goal, but we should see it as a means to accelerate in realizing our ultimate goal of sustainable city, that is the flourishing of humanity in our society. Distinguished guests, today we have entered implementation phase of e-government services. Many initiatives, including integration of smart city principles in urban development, have been piloted through Gerakan 100 Kota Cerdas. We have these modalities and what is needed to act collaboratively in enhancing the leadership of governors and mayors, especially in planning and delivering reliable service and integration of three key elements: socio-economics, ecology, and technology as a holistic system. Overlapping system must be integrated and data must be managed to be used synergistically across systems. The goal is to make it easier for the community to collaborate and to reduce inefficiency and injustice in the system management. Ladies and gentlemen, the government of Indonesia used the momentum of relocating the national capital as a way to implement smart approach development to create a competitive economy, smart and inclusive society, as well as smart, green, and resilient environment. The smart city development in IKN is expected not only to boost Indonesia's economic growth, but also to build a new living condition for people's life with a clear purpose, where people feel fulfilled, not just materially sufficient. However, how could we achieve all those targets when we are actually facing big challenge in transforming our current practices, among other things, on mobilizing common resources toward urban transformation? Traditionally, there are three vital funding sources in smart city development: state budget, public-private partnership scheme, private or state-owned enterprise investment. Each source has a different target on types of project to be funded. For example, state budget for provision of basic infrastructure, creating smart government and connectivity infrastructure. Private investment, PPP, and also state-owned enterprise investment is targeted to build, for instance, commercial area or more advanced infrastructure that could bring not only benefits to the company, but also optimal services to the community. Ladies and gentlemen, we have mapped the opportunity of innovative financings, especially to fund the smart city projects, to public-private partnership scheme. The PPP scheme is improved service and better spending. There are several challenges that need to be considered in implementing innovative financing for smart city development. These challenges include the need for large investment, so that incentive and policies are needed to increase the mobilization and investment of resources. The Indonesian government has made several strategies in accelerating the implementation of innovative financing scheme, particularly through the PPP scheme, which include PPP joint office to increase government support and facilities, one-stop services in pertaining business licenses through online single submission, government support to PGF, and also government support to project development fund facility for project preparation, government support to incentive for private sector, and government guarantee to improve project bankability. Honorable guests, I need to emphasize on our theme today, improving the mechanism of PPP for smart city development. The smart approach is not only about technology, it is a comprehensive approach in problem solving and in creating a better solution through collaboration among stakeholders, such as government, private businesses, and also local communities. I hope this seminar can help us build a better foundation to cooperate and collaborate in the resolving issues we are facing and march toward our common goals, creating sustainable city for all. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jakarta, September 2022, Minister of National Development Planning, Head of National Development Planning Agency, Suharso Monoarfa.
Thank you, Mrs. Mia Amalia, for the speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue with the second opening remarks from the lead co-chair T20 Indonesia and head of the IKN Transitional Advisory Team. Please welcome Mr. Professor Bambang Permadi Sumantri Brojonegoro. For Mr. Bambang, the time is yours.
Very good morning to all of us. Excellency Bapak Suharso Monoarfa, the Minister of National Development Planning, Head of Bappenas, Honorable Professor Suhono Harso Supangkat, Lead Co-Chair of Task Force 2 T20 Indonesia, Honorable Professor Danang Parikesit, Lead Co-Chair of Task Force 8 T20 Indonesia, Honorable Bapak Bima Arya, Mayor of Bogor City, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to speak about the importance of public-private partnership for smart city development at the Go Smart 2022, Recover Together, Recover Stronger, as a side event of T20. In 2010, only half of Indonesian population live in urban area. This number will continue to rise, and by 2045, Indonesia's urban population will exceed 70%. Despite the fact that this number indicates that our economy is progressing, if the urban growth has not been well anticipated, it will lead to an increase in urban problems and impede the well-being of its citizens. Urban problem will reduce economic productivity. World Bank in 2017 indicated that congestion in Jakarta caused economic loss of around 65 trillion rupiah per year. More congestion means an increase of air pollution. Over 90% of population living in the city is exposed to air population above WHO standards, and air pollution influences 5.5 million diseases per year in Jakarta. Another urban issue is the widening income disparities caused by unequal distribution of public amenities. People with low income who live in areas not served by PDAM pipeline must pay 15 to 30 times the regular PDAM water price. The ADB also showed that 93% of more than 200 surveyed cities in Asia and Pacific were found to have housing that is severely unaffordable to the city's residents. Increasingly complex urban problems cannot be solved by conventional solutions. Smart infrastructure solutions help governments leapfrog common traditional infrastructure options and common service delivery constraints. However, smart infrastructure needs more than just a collection of sophisticated technologies. It must work in tandem with smart society, environment, and economy to create a livable and sustainable city. In realizing a livable and sustainable city, along with closing infrastructure gap, there is little chance that government will close this gap with only public funds. Infrastructure projects require district funding streams in order to attract private funding. A business model for infrastructure project designates not only who will deliver and pay for delivery of infrastructure project, but also how the counterparties will assume the risk associated with the project. Blended finance is one of the tools that can be utilized, not only for pooling different sources of funds, but also focus on mobilizing more private capital through leveraging development funds, either from public or philanthropic funders. Combining such concessional public funds with equity or debt funds can help reduce the project interest rate, lower the project risk, or improve the project design, which will ultimately achieve the expected financial and social return. In 2020, 35% of blended finance transactions occurred in energy sector, which is critical in ensuring the power required for smart city development. While the infrastructure and housing sector each contributed 9% and 4% of total blended finance transactions, these figures showed that these related sectors to smart city development were well versed in implementing a blended finance structure. According to Prof. Suharno Harso Supangkat, professor from ITB, building a smart city is one of the efforts toward Smart Indonesia. Smart city can be realized when all of its components and stakeholders can work together and collaborate. Complexities of urban issues that I have mentioned above require smart solutions because conventional ones cannot catch up with the speed of urban issues. Although information technology has high innovative potential, we must not rely on IT solutions only to solve urban issues. In essence, a smart city is a city that can manage various resources effectively and efficiently to solve various city challenges using innovative, integrated, and sustainable solutions to provide infrastructure and services that can improve the quality of citizens' well-being. We highlight three aspects: innovative, integrated, and sustainable. Innovative means creating novel and new solutions using resources effectively and efficiently to serve needed capacities. Integrated means creating solutions where institutions, ministries, and other government bodies work with each other and work with private institutions, companies, or organizations. Integration includes business process, data, application, IT, and non-IT infrastructure. At last, sustainable means that the solution created must be long-term, not just temporary. Still, according to Prof. Suharno, smart city model encompassing smart economy, smart environment, and smart society as its service domain. They are enabled by smart people, smart infrastructure, technology and environment, as well as smart governments. The service domains act as basic values to improve citizens' quality of life. One example of public-private partnership to build smart cities is the Philippines' New Clark City project. The new city is envisioned to be a livable, environmentally sustainable, and resilient city, not only in the Philippines, but also in Asia. The transition body made by the government works with the Asian Development Bank and demonstrates how public-private partnership can help build Asia's massive infrastructure project. ADB provides transaction advisory services to ensure transparency and swiftness of the project. They help BCDA, the transition body, with the procurement of water and wastewater public-private partnership, power distribution public-private partnership, mass transportation system public-private partnership, as well as information and communication technologies with public-private partnership. Considering needs of Asia and Pacific amount to over 1.7 billion US dollars, the government can only provide 40% of the amount. The rest must come from the private sector. This is where public-private partnership scheme can bridge the gap. At the end, it is important that we build understanding and effective collaboration between the stakeholders. All stakeholders must be ready to deal with new and innovative ways through services development based on smart solution. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Bambang, for the great speech to us. Ladies and gentlemen, we will have today's speaker session followed by the discussion session. This event is proudly sponsored by Bakti Kominfo and organized by Smart City and Community Innovation Center of Institut Teknologi Bandung in collaboration with T20 Indonesia. We are going to listen to the speakers, and I would like to invite those who are in presence on site to come to the stage. For the first of our speakers, please welcome Ms. Cleo Kawaki as the head of ADB's Office of Public-Private Partnership. Our second speaker, Mr. Professor Dr. Danang Parkesit as the lead co-chair Task Force 8 T20 Indonesia. Our third speaker, Mr. Bima Arya Sugiarto, SIP MA PhD, as the head of Apexi and mayor of Bogor City. Our fourth speaker, Mr. Muhammad Wahid Sutopo, as the President Director of PT Penjaminan dan Infrastruktur Indonesia. In this occasion, he is represented by Mr. Andre Permana PhD as Executive Business Director of PT Penjaminan dan Infrastruktur Indonesia. And our last speaker, Mr. Dr. Binsar Parasian Naipospos, MSP, as Senior Lecturer at SAPPK ITB. This session would be chaired by Mr. Brian Osman. For Mr. Brian Osman, the stage is yours.
Best wishes for all of us. Welcome and thank you so much for investing your time with us in this T20 hybrid site event, improving the mechanism of public-private partnership for smart city development. Let me introduce myself. I am Andrew Brian Osman and I will be the moderator for this session. We have 5 speakers in this session, and before we start, each speaker has 10 minutes to present in turn, and during the presentations, the participant can write the question in the Zoom or YouTube live chat with the format name, the origin of agency or institution, the speaker, the question. Okay, it's now my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speakers. The first is Ms. Cleo Kawaki. She is the head of ADB's Office of Public-Private Partnership. Ms. Cleo Kawaki will present the importance of public-private partnership, providing infrastructure in the case of national capital city development. For Ms. Kawaki, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope this works. I'm not quite sure if I can share the screen. Please let me know if it's not working. Okay. Here we go. Yes, I think it's working. Great. Okay, it's a great pleasure for us and an honor to be invited to present at this forum. This development of Nusantara is, sorry, I'm not able to see. Okay, great. Okay. Development of Nusantara capital city presents a great opportunity for Indonesia to show how a city of the future can be sustainable, resilient, and great place to live. For this, we should foster the innovation, the technologies, and efficiencies of the private sector. And we hope that ADB can assist in this effort through our sovereign advisory and private sector operations. PPP is an effective solution to develop infra of new capital through innovation, efficiency, and it can provide significant value addition with an optimal distribution of risk and benefits. Okay, when done right, these long-term contracts between the government and private sector deliver projects cheaper and faster. The analysis here of Australian projects showed that PPPs on average did better on cost overruns and delivered faster, ahead of schedule even, versus the public sector projects. Operational efficiencies are expected from bringing in private sector. This is especially true when introducing new technology to the country, whether it's digital or renewable energy or even smart city infrastructure. Also, private sector can bring transparent and merit-based organizational structures and client-focused service delivery. The capital brought in by the private sector partner initially can fill the fiscal shortfall for public sector investment and bring projects in earlier. With fair risk allocation, the long-term benefits can be ensured. So also on the knowledge and capacity are transferred while maintaining strategic control. The competitive bidding encourages private participants to propose innovative solutions to win a bid. The private sector can support the successful delivery of public infrastructure services and can bring in innovation and efficiency along with capital and know-how. So in looking at a new development, a few things that need special attentions. Well, as in all things in life, the right strategy and planning are key to success. The procurement methodology for the project should be selected on a basis of value for money, meaning for the whole life cycle, not just upfront. And the competitive bidding process does really bring out the efficiencies and innovation. We have found that sorting out, all these unsolicited bids cost us more time than going through the market process. The enabling environment, including the rules and regulations, is also a big factor in determining success. ADB can support all of these through our technical assistance and advisory services. If needed, we can also support with either sovereign or private sector financing. And in the implementation stage, we can also offer monitoring services to make sure that what is contracted is delivered. So just going through, ADB could support the development of new capital through PPP advisory and a one ADB approach. We have sovereign lending, guarantees, private sector debt and equity, innovative platforms. Like it was mentioned on the blended finance by Professor Bambam Perdiborendono, that it can leverage through the platforms and capital utilization. We have knowledge partnerships and of course our transaction advisory services. This is a very confusing diagram and I have to apologize for it. But there are so many parts and players with differing interests in a PPP. But the most important part of making a PPP for smart cities successful is the government commitment and the political will. I mean, with this, we found that we can be very helpful in sorting everything out. For the Nusantara, what support that we can provide, we are looking at the knowledge exchange with other low carbon inclusive new cities, support for development of digital tools for data collections, storage and analysis, and advice on institutional aspects. The very important part is because the area is so pristine, you have to be really careful on the strategic environmental assessment and mapping of multi-hazard risk and biodiversity. And of course, we want to be tracking the carbon neutrality pollution is a problem in all cities. With a new city, let's start with carbon neutrality at a forefront. And the facility, in mobilizing financing, there's a facility for project identification and preparation. Of course, the PPP transaction advisory services, which can help structure and get through all that spaghetti of differing interests, and support to state-owned enterprises, and of course our financing. And this is really important, I think, for new cities, is the land value capture, making the best out of what you have in land assets. Yes, we're really proud of our new Clark City development that we're assisting the government of the Philippines with. It's a $14 billion greenfield development of the first smart, environmentally sustainable, and disaster resilient city in the Philippines. It's about 100 kilometers away from Metro Manila. So we also have a project going from a rail project going from Manila all the way to New Clark City, which would cut the time of the transport from 3 hours to 1. So it would be a very fast way of getting to a new government and decongest Metro Manila. And we have provided a kind of holistic way of advisory, but initially by evaluation of the master plans of capacity support, screening and assessing the viability of green infrastructure projects, and structuring and tendering of these projects. Let me just go into a little bit of detail on what we've achieved. Okay, so the new Government Administration Center. Well, I'm very proud to say that we achieved 50% savings from the benchmark, and on the technical, we leveraged on the technical recommendations and the river study plan, which was developed with our support. And we lowered availability payments by the public partner with land value capture, bundling in additional development areas upon completion. And the water and wastewater infrastructure was designed with smart features, including advanced treatment technology, advanced metering infrastructure, SCADA, and effluent refuse, and for environmentally sustainable, smart, and disaster resilient water and wastewater services. The KPIs for the water conservation and resilience is very rigorous, and including the groundwater preservation. And we achieved the lowest water tariff in the Philippines, and this hopefully will attract relocation of industries to and people to the city. On the power distribution infrastructure, this would be the first fully underground power distribution system in the country, designed with smart grid features such as advanced metering, smart transformers, SCADA, and including future-proof design that can adapt to technology developments such as microgrids and renewable generation as they come in. And we have included the Green Initiative to pursue through requirements on renewable power sourcing. And again, we achieved the lowest distribution tariff in the Philippines. So that's for the new city, but for the brownfield cities or cities already in existence, we have the Creating Investable Cities initiative, where we leverage, our knowledge with a question. A dilemma that a lot of mayors have nowadays is, how can I maximize the development impact of the resources currently available to me? The initiative looks at the mainstreaming of resilience, maximizing value for money, and improving local revenue mobilization. And we have a lot of partners, and we hope to help cities become more sustainable and reasonable by then. I hope this short presentation gave a little bit of idea on the services ADB offers to support smart cities, and cities become more sustainable, resilient, and great places to live. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much for and delightful inspiration. Next, we have second speaker, Mr. Professor Danang Parikesit. He is the lead co-chair Task Force 8 T20 Indonesia. Professor Danang Parikesit will present funding and financing strategies for smart city development. For Professor Danang Parikesit, the screen is yours.
Thank you, and very good morning to everybody. I hope you can hear me well from wherever you are. Is it clear enough? Can all hear you, or can the moderator hear me? Okay, thanks, Pak Andre, for the thumbs up code. So I make sure that everybody can listen to my presentation. So thanks once again especially to Professor Suhono, who's kindly inviting me to speak on this webinar. I see also Mr. Andre from the task force, on our task force, thematic coordinators, is also here. So I think I will be probably sharing similar or almost similar presentations, also with Ms. Kawawaki. I think she has already set up a scene for capital city development, so I will not repeat what she has said during her presentation. So what I will do is to share with you the experience that we have in the toll road industry, which is actually my current job at the Ministry of Public Works, and hope that with the examples of the toll road business, toll road PPP, we can learn something out of that to be implemented for smart city developments, especially for Ibu Kota Nusantara, our new capital city. I hope I can now share my screen, my PowerPoints. Okay. Yes, I hope you can see that now. Right, good. So I will use an example of toll road investment and financing to look at ways on which we do investments using private financing, private sector money for infrastructure projects. And it is very important that listening to many presentations we heard earlier from both governments and non-governments, from the head of the new capital city, Nusantara, Dr. Bambang Susantono, who has been with us in the previous task force webinar. We understand that it's huge investments that is needed. This was taken from the publication in 2021 that at least nearly 500 trillion rupiah is needed. And as you can see from these graphs, from these diagrams, state budget will cover only 20%. And purely private sector budget will cover 26%, leaving a huge gap for public-private partnership. So it is where Ms. Kawawaki earlier mentioned that we do need a partnership programs with the private sectors to ensure that the government plan is delivered on time, on schedule, on budget. And I think it's very important to highlight the message the capital city wants to convey, that it should be environmentally friendly city, change in living, transformation in mobility, and transformation in work. So it encompasses several aspects that needs to be taken care. And I think everybody in this webinar understand the more criteria put and the objective, the more complexity it created, and the more players coming into play, the more complicated the investment structure will have. And this is where Dr. Andre later on will come up with the recipe and ingredients to ensure that the risk can be well mitigated. So I will not talk about that, and I'll leave it to the expert to talk about that later on. But what we think is important is to learn about the history of the Indonesian toll road. So what we can learn from that. The Toll Road Authority has been established in 2005. So the history of this authority is 17 years now. And throughout the 17 years, we've been experiencing so many challenges at that time. So, and the first toll road is in operation in 1978. So it's been a long history of toll road. So we can certainly learn from what happened during that time. What is the stages of developments of toll roads? Today, we will be talking not only accelerations of the toll road programs, but ensuring that transformations and creating added value they do exist. We should have more innovations in terms of technology, new type of roads, smart roads, ensuring the innovation and financing and risk allocation is there, and ensure that modernizations in terms of user experience, asset management is put in place. So the big questions today for us and remains, I think, in the following years is to make sure that risk is very well mitigated, and risk is, as far as possible, we de-risk the project to ensure that private capital is coming in and be part of our partnerships to develop the country. So this is the key message of the history of the toll road investment in Indonesia. It's been a key words for the last couple of months of T20 conversations. It was the key words for many years of conversations. My own conversation also with IIGF Institute to ensure that risk is well mitigated as far as possible. And earlier, Professor Bambang Brojo also talking about blended finance to ensure de-risking of the projects. Ms. Kawawaki is talking about the same thing. So it is going to be a big question. Now, I think when we talk about smart city developments, what is the risk of attracting private sectors to come into play in this smart city developments or new capital city developments? So this is basically the building blocks of our toll road financing. When we look at the toll road financing, we should talk about the land financing, land acquisition financing, equity financing, loan financing, and risk financing. So it has different small things that we need to do. In my office, we open up every doors, every window, and this diagrams to make sure that again, in both greenfield projects and brownfield projects, including asset recycles and working with the sovereign wealth funds for the brownfield projects, making sure that gas efficiency is there to help the toll road operators and investors sustain the business during the ramp-up period. I think in many of the PPP projects, people are pretty concerned about the big capital costs in the beginning, and the revenue will be collected later on along the line, along the way. For us, the negative cash flow is around 5 to 8 years on average, depending whether you will be talking about the urban toll road or interurban toll roads. In some cases where the economy is at the beginning of its developments, it may take 20 years, 25 years before it reaches a positive cash flow. So we have to make sure that along the way, the project is sustained, the company is sustained to then have a steady growth in the futures, where you have the steady growth, then the market for brownfield financing is becoming available for asset recycling. So here, I think I will not talk about this one by one, because each of the menu, for example, is maybe deserve a separate seminars. But by showing this, I think it's very important to recognize when we are talking about the financing investments, you have to talk about a series of options and see what fits in the needs of the smart city developments. What is the risk associated with that? How can we de-risk those the situations and ensure we find the right solutions to that? Within the Ministry of Public Works, I show you two examples. One is on the water supply. Pak Andre probably also very familiar with this one. The other one is the multi-lane free flow digital transformations projects. Unfortunately, IGF is not supporting us in this projects. We have to find the way in which to make sure that the project is also well mitigated mitigating its risk. But in both, let's say, the hard infrastructure and the soft infrastructures, there's a possibility that the PPP projects is implemented. So I will not be very worried too much about the possibility of using PPP and the smart city developments. I think the biggest challenge is to recognize what aspect that we need to take care, what risk associated with that. And I think what schemes and frameworks is available to ensure that risk is mitigated and private sector is interested to coming into the projects. Again, I think World Bank just recently issue a statements, very interesting, attractive statements. I think I will also maybe challenge IIGF by Andre to change from the notion from value for money to value for people in the future. So this is again probably a challenge, because what we have done so far is the framework of assessing the value for money for PPP project. But I think throughout the discussion within G20 and T20, there's a pressure or there's a demand for changing from value for money to value for people in future. That's why within the T20, there are several proposals that needs to be or will be pushed forward. One is the framework we call the Sustainable Infrastructure Investment in Finance, SIAF. This framework is ensuring the sustainability of investment made for infra developments. Professor Bambang Brojonegoro is talking about blended finance. Some people are considering the terms of green financing instruments like green sukuk or green bonds to ensure that we take care or we consider the environment seriously. Some other people are issuing climate bonds. I understand the Transjakarta, for example, is considering issuing green bonds for financing their electrification of their buses. So this is a big part of the Sustainable Infrastructure Investment Finance. The second proposal that we are really pushing very hard for G20 leaders is the establishment of the global investment platform for urban development projects. We understand that yesterday we had a webinar with U20, with Urban 20, and talking about the same thing, that cities are more complex. Cities are very complex. You cannot create projects almost exclusively. You have to have a blended or a group projects, a bundled projects to make sure that it is also financially viable, as well as it is basically environmentally sound. So the proposal for establishing a global investment platform for urban development projects is basically a creating platform for multi-source financing for innovative urban development projects. So with this one, the smart city development will certainly qualify if it is going to happen. Then I think it's a big chance for smart city to be financed through PPP projects. So with that, I will close my presentation. Thank you so much for paying attention on this talk. Have a fruitful discussion later on. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Mr. Danang Parikesit, for your such an insightful talk and delightful inspiration. Next, we go to the third speaker, Mr. Bima Arya Sugiarto, PhD, Head of Apexi and Major of Bogor City. But sorry, Mr. Bima Arya is unavailable to attend our discussion today because there is a separated agenda. And we go to the fourth speaker, Mr. Muhammad Wahid Sutopo, President Director of Indonesia Infrastructure Guarantee Fund. Disposition to Mr. Andre Permana, PhD, Business Executive Director of Indonesia Infrastructure Guarantee Fund. Mr. Andre Permana will present the role of Indonesia Infrastructure Guarantee Fund in accelerating sustainable infrastructure development. For Mr. Andre Permana, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for the moderator and also for ITB and also the T20 committee that held this distinguished event, and also to Prof. Danang Parikesit, to Cleo Kawawaki, and to all other panelists, and all to distinguished guests and participants. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning or good day, everyone. In this opportunity, I will actually represent IGF on behalf of Pak Wahid Sutopo as our President Director. I'm delivering some notes related to the PPP on the smart city, and I think some parts of my notes or my points has been delivered by Prof. Danang earlier, which I really glad to continue the collaboration with him, because if you see his first slide on the title, yeah, he has 3 capacities, and we are glad to be involved in all his 3 capacities to collaborate further with him in developing Indonesia infrastructure development. So let me start my slide by saying that we, as the special mission vehicle of the Minister of Finance, Republic of Indonesia, we actually has been part of the G20 initiative through infrastructure financing initiative, and also in the T20 Indonesia itself. We are glad to be part of Task Force 8, and I myself has become one of the thematic coordinator for that, led by Prof. Danang. Here I will talk about how to improve the PPP for smart city development by our role in providing facilitation on government guarantee provision and also by providing the project development facility. In my next slide, just shortly want to describe how we actually in Indonesia try to shift our focus to service and availability of infrastructure rather than having it as a construction perspective. And also we are trying to develop optimal risk allocation because we are very aware that to invite the private sectors, as mentioned by Cleo in her slide earlier, we need to address certain aspects, and most importantly, one thing is the risk allocation in the contract itself to enable us gaining good cooperation, long-term cooperation between the government and the private sector to have a sustainable infrastructure development. And here I will show you how the government has shown its commitment through provision of fiscal support initiative, especially one thing from the Minister of Finance, through many of facilities in every aspects, including the PDF, the support for the viability gap fund, the provision of availability payment, and also the long-term financing and through PTSMI, and for us by providing the sovereign guarantee, which IGF itself can also be assigned to do the PDF facility by the MOF, and also with the support for the land acquisition. And here, what we are trying to say is that for us, we have reaching the stage that we are not only talking in a theoretical framework, but we already have some evidence on the project itself. And as explained by Prof. Danang earlier, in the toll sector is one of the leading sectors for PPP, and we will see what other sectors that has been developed by PPP, including for those related to the sustainable development. Next slide. This is what I've been mentioned earlier as the special mission vehicle of Minister of Finance. IGF or PT Penjaminan Infrastruktur Indonesia Persero has been expanding its mandate not only related to the PPP by providing guarantee and PDF, but also contributing in providing guarantee for the PSN project or National Strategic Project, and also credit guarantee, including direct lending. We have actually contractual relation with the ADB, for instance, in supporting the direct lending guarantee with the Minister of Finance. And also we are involved in the National Economic Recovery or PEN program by providing credit guarantees and corporate credit guarantees as well, together with the Indonesia Exim Bank. Next slide. With those mandates, I think we are trying to achieve these value propositions, including not only the bankability aspects by provision of the guarantee, but also how to improve the accountability, the transparency of the process of provision of the infrastructure projects, and also in terms of how to enhance to support the risk management aspect, especially in the government side. So here, I think what I want to explain also is that we are glad also to be participating in a PPP Joint Office Republic of Indonesia together with 8 line ministries and institutions. And as Pak Danang mentioned earlier, we have also IGF Institute, who's quite active in collaboration with academics and universities under the platform of UNIID, University Network for Indonesian Infrastructure Development, which now has around 35 universities, including ITB and all major universities in Indonesia. In the next slide. So putting the context of sustainability, not only by involving all the stakeholders, including the academics and universities. But here also we are trying to integrate the ESG framework to our guarantee process. And we have been doing this from our inception, actually, before we know the term ESG itself. So we start with the ESMF, the safeguard of environmental and social, and how we actually trying to address the principle of ENS for us to be able to somehow achieving or helping the government achieving the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, which can be shown in the next few slides later. In the next slide, I think we can show you. So we can go to the next slide. Thank you for the guarantee portfolio of IGF. So far, with all the mandates that we have already guaranteed 42 projects. So which has a total project value of around $32 billion US. And also included with that numbers is the 31 PPP projects, which amounted around $23 billion US in consists of many sectors. So here we see the road sectors, not only the toll road, but also for non-toll roads. Transportation sectors, we have airports and railway, drinking water sectors, ICT or telecommunication sectors, which involve Bhakti. As our counterparts, electricity sectors, and for one tourism sectors, we are doing it through not by PPP but through direct lending scheme in Mandalika. So here we can see that we have already done the transaction for all these PPPs, and for this project is already going on the implementation stage, and hopefully everything will go smoothly to enable the project reaching its objectives. Next slide. This is something that I've actually mentioned earlier, how we actually implement the ESMF and SDG, ESG framework to SDG contribution. So this is how we are doing it. So I think I'm not trying to reword it again. So next slide. This is how we are trying to map for each project and each sector that we are supporting, how the project has the impact for provision of the infrastructure itself, and also how to contribute for the SDGs. So for instance, here we can see for the clean water provision system, it's trying to help the achievement of the SDG 6 with the clean water and sanitation. So here we can see how we actually aiming or have the orientation for sustainable development by implementing this kind of principles to our guarantee process. In the next slide, this is just another depiction of our impact assessment of those projects. I think not only for the clean water sectors, but also, for instance, here for toll roads, also for ICT projects, we have 4 of them, and also for renewable energy power plants. I think with this portfolios, I think hopefully will help us in having more sustainable way to implement the infrastructure. So in the next slide, I think this is my last slide. Actually, this is one thing that want to highlight actually for the topic of smart city. Although the exact smart city PPP has not been implemented yet, at least it's still under preparation stage. For instance, in Jakarta or in other cities. But here I want to share with you how we are trying to improve the sustainability of the cities in Semarang as capital city of Central Java by provision of PPP in water supply system. And here I think what's very interesting here, not only how the project has involved not only the expertise or involvement of the private sector, but also the provision of government support, including our guarantee and construction subsidy or construction support. But here, if we look at the objective of the project that we have supporting, is how the project is expected to be able to serve the access for the clean water to more than 70,000 house connections by 2030. And also, interestingly, this project is expected also to mitigate the climate change impact. For instance, due to the increased tidal water or rock flood, and also how to minimize the land subsidence impact through the groundwater extraction excessively in the Semarang area. So actually, the project not only act as a water supply system, but also as the risk mitigation to the city itself to create sustainable development for the cities. And I think with this, I end my presentation. Thank you very much. I return it to the moderator.
Mana, for such an insightful talk and delightful inspiration. And next we go to we go to the next speaker, Mr. Dr. Binsar Parasian Naipospos, Senior Lecturer at SAPPK Institut Teknologi Bandung. Dr. Binsar Parasian Naipospos will present provision of urban and regional infrastructure through the public-private partnership scheme. Dr. Binsar, ready?
Thank you for having me for this occasion. I'll talk about provision of, on this occasion, I'll talk about provision of urban and regional infrastructure through public-private partnership. As what the previous speaker said, that we already have a PPP joint office, the 9 national level of joint office in to cope with the PPP in Indonesia. But the problem is the joint office, the ministerial level of joint office is not executing agency for how to make a decision for PPP in Indonesia. That is only an joint office to monitor and to accelerate, to cope with if a dispute for PPP projects come up to the difficulties in the futures. And next, yes, this is the nine central joint office government have its respectively role. And from the next slide, we can see in the planning process for the next, each have their, can I have? Yeah, this is the role of its government office to cope with the PPP. Yeah, we can see the Bappenas, for instance, have a role to plan and to prepare the outline business case together with the Minister of Finance to prepare the OBC and to prepare the final business case. And after that, before the transaction, some office have involved to prepare for this PPP project. For instance, like the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Domestic, and if there's problems to prepare and to justify the OBC and FBC, and then the coordinating Minister of Economic and Investment try to debottlenecking the problems. What the problems? And then they can together sit in the one table to discuss how to cope with some problems in PPP project. Of course, from such 5 phase of preparation for PPP project, usually we need about 4 to 5 years. It's very long process to preparation for PPP project. And from data, from me, we can calculate it about 400 meetings for 4-5 years preparation for PPP project. Why in this case? The problem is how to simplify the mechanism of the PPP project, because as we know, we have 514 kabupaten and kota, and we have also 34 provincial government level. It means that we have a provincial level PPP project, and we also, the problems for us, we also have to how to boost the PPP project in the level of kabupaten and kota. And why in this case this is a problem for us, how to adjust the mechanism in PPP project. This is the data. PPP project for unsolicited project, we have already six operational PPP projects, such as Palaparing Barat, Palaparing Tengah, and Palaparing Timur, and already operation now. Yes. And toll road in Batang Semarang, Pandaan Malang, and Balikpapan Samarinda is preparation to operation now. And beside that, we already have a 9 under construction PPP project, and then 5 under transaction. And for unsolicited project, for unsolicited PPP project, we already have 14 preparation PPP project under preparation. 1 already operate. We call it Jalan Tol MBZ. Yeah, MBZ. That's unsolicited project. But 3 unsolicited projects, Krian Legundi and Jakarta Cikampek Sultan part under preparation now. It's already construction, and Dumai supply. But if we take a look at some PPP project in Indonesia, but mostly the PPP project is in toll road and clean water. But the problem is how to make the small scale PPP project in Kabupaten and Kota. And that's the big task for us, how to cope with that problems. This is 19 PPP project for urban and regional planning. For 514 kabupaten and kota. This is 19. First is housing PPP project. The second, irrigation. The third is clean water. And fourth is solid waste PPP project. And then the urban facility. Like it can be like to make a supermarket and to mall, and then the hospital also, that's very potential, and we already prepare in, for instance, in North Sulawesi, and even in Jawa Barat we already prepare Garut Rumah Sakit Daerah in Garut. That's and tourism PPP facility over is very potential for to be and then lembaga pemasyarakatan also a kind of PPP project of potential in Kerobokan, for instance, and in Salemba, Penjara Salemba already prepared for PPP project, moved to the Tangerang Selatan, Sultan Tangerang. And then talking about, because our topic is smart city, the connectivity PPP infrastructure project are very potential. Telecommunication, fiber optic in the backbone already prepared by central government, but in the kabupaten and kota, how we tap the fiber optic cable to be distributed to the consumers in the level of kabupaten and kota. This is a challenge for us. And energy infrastructure and conservation, green infrastructure are another challenge for us. How to yes, this is the 90, and then I try to underline in this discussion how to start the PPP project in Indonesia with a very small scale infrastructure, not only talking about PSN, or Indonesia we call it Project Strategis Nasional also, but how we cope, we try to 514 kabupaten kota to adopt the PPP concept being implemented in the kabupaten. Why in this case we need to cooperate, to synchronize with DPRD to set up the PERDA or local government regulation. PERDA in level of provinsi and PERDA in level of kabupaten and kota to underline the procedures to PPP in the small scale PPP project. The PPP project in Kabupaten Kota usually based on the capacity, we adjust the cost not more than 10 million US dollar. I think it's about 100 million rupiah. It means because the investment for that small scale infrastructure in the local government, because the kemampuan the fiscal capacity for the local government not more than $100 million. Yeah, why in this case, it means that we have to choose which kind of infrastructure fit for PPP project in Kabupaten and Kota. To solve the problems, we already identified some problems needs to be need solution. Yeah, need solution. In this case, from my experience, in about a decade, in 10 years, the basic problems is how to choose the champion. How to choose the champion. The champion is a professional leader to prepare the planning, to prepare the communication, because as I mentioned, it needs 4 years, it needs 5 years. Meeting about 400 meetings. In this case, we have to have a champion, but the champion should be dedicated, not an ad hoc team. That's the problems. Because in local government, usually there is a mutasi for the just only 2 years after he's the team leader of the PPP unit, and change to another office, That's the problems in the local government area to the PPP project. Why in this case, I say that's to be the champion in PPP projects should be dedicated, not be dispositional to the another office. Yeah. Another challenge is how to reinventing kantor bersama. In this case, because the kantor bersama is just like a joint office, based on their function, to solve partly depend on their capacity. And next, how to solve the problems of PPP in Indonesia, how to adjust a regulation for KPPU or Indonesian Competition Commission. Ya, KPPU, Komite Persaingan Usaha. Why? Because talking about PPP, value for money, beauty contest, it means that LKPP Indonesia, we already have LKPP, should play an important role to adjust the beauty contest among competitors in PPP project to make it as not only as a LKPP, but should be reactivated as a PSG, or we call it public sector comparator. It means that how usually like in Jawa Barat and like in Kabupaten, we already have a PPP node or simple KPP, simple KPBU. Why in this case, simple KPBU should be play an important role to be an PSC or public sector comparators. This is very important in PPP scheme. Why in this case, this is the some point from my experience how to support the PPP project in Indonesia. This is some case for a smart city in Indonesia. The case one is how this is a solar panel rooftop. Yeah, solar panel rooftop in West Java government already still already prepared, under preparation for a PPP project for solar panel rooftop in a government sector, like in sports center, in a government building, in health facility, like in penerangan di rumah sakit, something like that. This there's very prospective PPP project in central provincial government. In provincial government Jawa Barat prepare this project, and then the next PPP potential project is the internet connectivity for all. Yeah, this is also still under proposal preparation. Internet connectivity for all is the internet to the central business district in the to make connectivity, to make all the consumers in CBD can get a facility to the internet connectivity. But the viability and the feasibility for this PPP project still under OBC scheme. I think that's all what my opinion about the mechanism for a PPP project in Indonesia. I think that's all of what I can give for this meeting. Thank you, Pak Andre.
Thank you, Dr. Binsar, for your such insightful talk and delightful inspiration. Thank you very much to all distinguished speakers in this session. Starts from Ms. Cleo Kawawaki, Professor Danang Parikesit, Mr. Andre Permana, PhD, and Mr. Dr. Binsar Parasyane Pospos for the fruitful presentation about the issues and challenge of improving the mechanism of public-private partnership for smart city development. We highly appreciate your time and valuable contribution to this session. And now we are entering the discussion session, and we already have three questions. First is from Hafida from NTU, Nanyang Technological University. Maybe to Professor Danang Parikesit. How ready are Indonesia scheme implementation?
Should I respond now? Or?
Maybe Professor Danang can answer this question directly.
Yeah, well, I think I'll probably share my opinions together with Mr. Andre, because I think he is also pretty much involved with the green financing in Indonesia. I just give you an example of Jakarta government to have the 1,000 electric buses and 10,000 buses in a couple of years. It fits pretty well for the schemes of green financing, and especially since they are having an intention of issuing a green sukuk or green bonds. We had a meeting a couple of times, and one of the particular importance is a question of how we should market the bonds. Is it going to market it domestically, or is it going to market it internationally? It turns out that the domestic market is at this moment is not picking up the green bonds pretty easily. The transaction costs for marketing green bonds in Indonesia or green sukuk in Indonesia, it's more costly than the conventional bonds. So this is the first issue that we have at this moment. So if we would like to have more people are getting into this bond market, green bond market domestically, I think the fiscal authority and monetary authority will or should issue an incentive or good fiscal policy to ensure they are equally competitive with the conventional bonds. This is one of the lessons that we learned from a couple of conversation with international bond market. International green bond market is more attractive than national ones. There are already some interests going on for international market to take up these green bonds. But again, one of the questions that come up from the international market is that what is the scope of these bonds? Is it going to cover only the electrification of buses, or is it going to be a green transport projects encompassing several sectors, buses, LRTs, MRTs, to creating it more attractive and to ensure that no leakage on this projects? Because once the international market will ask, if you are investing on public buses, are they in competition with LRTs? Are they in competition with MRTs? So I think we have to package the projects to make it attractive so that the international market could see this is actually a transformation of the whole city instead of a specific project. So I think we have the prospect is there. We have identified the challenge and the risk associated with that. Ms. Kawawaki, I see she is also nodding. So I think she is also will be able to respond to that questions. Looking at international perspective. So again, I'm saying that the prospect is there. A challenge we have already identified. I think we need to find the right structure, right arrangement to roll out these green financing schemes.
Okay, thank you, Professor Danang, for your answer. I hope it can answer the question from Ms. Fida. And we go to the second question from Sukma, IAGF, to Ms. Cleo Kawawaki. What is the key challenge of development new capital city of Philippines? How the government deals with that, and what is ADB roles to address that challenge? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. I think the main challenge is people not willing to move. I think the government has given some incentives for the government entities to go, but the move has been rather slow. So the challenge is how do we go forth with attracting more people to, or more entities to move faster. And one of the things that is really an issue for us is the transportation, and having it make a sustainable transformation come faster to the area. So ADB is supporting the rails, but it's going to take a bit of time. So I think it has to be really mapped out with a really good strategy on the timing of how everything comes together. Hopefully, we will be able to support that and to have more people come to the area. But the thing that I really want to stress is that we're ready for people to come. If it was the other way around, then I think we should be a lot more worried because, well, if you're not prepared and the infrastructure is not already going in place, then you have the same issues that you had with an organic city where, people come, but there's no infrastructure to service them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cleo Kawawaki. And for the last question from Nugroho, Coordinating Ministry for Economic Affairs Bappenas. I think it can be answered from Professor Danang Parikesit and Dr. Binsar. Our presidential regulation Perpres nomor 38 tahun 2015 and the derivative regulation sufficient for the implementation PPP for smart city implementation. I've been learned from another FGD that these regulations are more about physical infrastructure. Maybe Dr. Binsar can answer it first.
Thank you for the question. The last and maybe at least this is the regulation already changed 4 times after their adjustment. It's starting from the problems of the land problems for the PPP project in a small scale infrastructure project. For instance, like housing in Kabupaten and Kota, because as we know, the housing is already a basic needs for urban population. Yeah, urban population. As we know, Kawasan Kumuh, a slum area, is already spread out in a number of city. Even in Bandung, as we know, in Balubur, we near of Balubur Town Square, there is a government land. That is the government land already co-opted by the local population. Why in this case? To the basic problems for PPP project in the small town is peraturan daerah, local government. PPP regulation number 38, 2015, that's commonly to make an umbrella regulation for the Indonesian scale PPP mechanism. But for the local, maybe specifically local government like Bandung government should justify the regulation number 38 2015 to be can be implemented in Kota Bandung for housing. Why in this case we need some let me say peraturan pemerintah, how to procedurally justify the national level government to the peraturan daerah in this case. Yes, I think this is the starting point to make 515 kabupaten kota can adopt the mechanism of the PPP project in the national level to the local scale PPP project. I think that's our together task for us to cope with that problems. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Binsar and Professor Danang Parikesit. Maybe you have additional answer or opinion about this question.
Yes, I think again, Pak Andre could answer this better than myself. He is the one of the architect behind this Perpres 38, Pak moderator. So, but I think looking at the definition of infrastructure, it is actually very flexible if you look at the presidential decree. And when we are talking about smart city development, certainly there are components that can be categorized as a hard and soft infrastructure. So I think it's not a question of definition. It's a question of how we package the projects and how we deliver to the government contracting agency and see if they are convinced to package or repackage or bundle it as a PPP projects. But Andre, you probably can answer this question better than myself.
You've been perfect, Pak Danang, with the answer.
Okay,
So
thank you,
if
Professor Danang.
okay,
Yes.
Silakan
if
Pak
I
Andre.
may, Pak Moderator. Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
Pak Danang.
go, Pak.
If I may add just a few points.
Yes, please, Pak
Yes.
Andre.
Okay, thank you, Pak Danang, Pak Moderator. So I think one thing to add to this is that first we have to remind ourselves that not making the PPP as the objective. Yeah. So if we want to deliver a project, so just make sure that it will get the right structure and somehow it's more appropriate using PPP, and this is something that we can use. And this is something that we also learned from our experience in facilitating the early stage of PPPs related to the Smart City Initiative, or for instance, related to the digital transformation. Yeah. So this is something that we need to be very careful in evaluating the project needs, the motivations, and also the scoping for the projects, so that it will come to the right structure, including the risk allocation scheme. Because as Pak Danang mentioned, I think our regulation has already been sufficient, yeah, in terms of the Perpres, the presidential regulation, and whether this can or has include the ICT sectors and other related soft infrastructure as one of part of the type of the PPP that can be developed further. So I think that's my additional point. Thank you, Pak Danang, Pak Moderator, and also Pak Binsar.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Andre Permana, for the answers. It's a nice discussion, but we have to end discussion. Thank you once again for Ms. Cleo Kawawaki, Mr. Professor Danang Parikesit, Mr. Andre Permana, and Mr. Dr. Binsar. Finally, we hope that this event or discussion can give you insight into the public-private partnership mechanism for smart city development. And on behalf of the Task Force 2, Think 20 Indonesia, thank you everyone for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Prof. Danang, Ms. Cleo, Pak Binsar, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Okay, nice
Bye-bye.
meeting you all. Bye-bye. Take care. See you in Bali, Pak Danang.
See you.
Insya
Are you coming, Cleo?
Oh, she already signed out ya, just now.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. See you Bali, Pak.
Ya, makasih Pak Danang.
Ya, Pak.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Andrew Brian Osmond, and all of our speakers that have contributed to this event and our discussion all along. We do hope that the discussion would be the beginning for us to have better collaboration between public and private sectors, especially in improving the mechanism of public-private partnership for smart city development. The honorable ladies and gentlemen, next, we would like to provide a token of appreciation that will be presented by Mr. Professor Suhono Harso Supangkat for the representative speaker. In this occasion, the representative speaker is Mr. Dr. Binsar Parasian Nai Pospos as the senior lecturer at SAPPK ITB. Mr. Professor Suhono, and Mr. Dr. Binsar Parasianai Pospos. Ladies and gentlemen, before the event ends, let's take a picture together as an appreciation to all of our audience and be a moment for us to remember. For the online participants, we would like to request for you to open your camera and be ready for the taking picture, as well as the offline participants. Ladies and gentlemen, the photo session has indicated that this T20TF2 side event, improving the mechanism of public-private partnership for smart city development, has come to an end. It's such an unfortunate, of course, but we do hope that this could be our beginning for the better collaboration between public and private sectors. Therefore, we thank you for your active participation in this event. See you again and have a good day.